Good evening, visitors. Welcome to the Australian War Memorial's last post ceremony. My name is Troy Clayton, and this evening we warmly welcome the family of able seaman Francis Frederick Spurr, whose story will be told shortly by Lieutenant Commander Luke McNally from the Royal Australian Navy, who is able seaman Francis Frederick Spurr's great-nephew. This evening, we are honoured to welcome Dr. Christopher Scollis, United States Department of Defence, accompanied by Lieutenant General Gavin Reynolds, Chief of Defence Intelligence Australia, and the accompanying delegation. We also warmly welcome Mr. Alex McGowan, President of the Naval Association of Australia, ACT Section. The delegation representing 1 Recruit Training Unit, Course 15, Royal Australian Air Force Base, Wagga. We also welcome the veterans who have served, those that are still serving, and the families that love and support them. The live stream of this ceremony is made possible by the Return and Services League of Australia and the RSL and Services Club Association. We welcome members who are watching the broadcast of this ceremony across Australia. During this evening's ceremony, wreaths will be laid at the base of the Pool of Reflection by family, visitors to the memorial, and students on behalf of Blackheath and Thornley College from Charters Towers, Queensland. If you're able, please stand and join in singing the National Anthem. If you're able, please be seated. The Australian War Memorial was the vision of Charles Bean, Australia's First World War official historian. Bean landed with the Australian troops on Gallipoli and stayed with them at the front through to the end of the war. The idea of this national memorial and museum came to him at Pozières, France, in the depths of the bloody fighting of 1916. Bean's idea was that this would be a place where families and friends could mourn their loved ones buried in faraway places. It would also be a place that could help all Australians understand what these men and women had endured and what they had done for us. Bean's vision, to which we remain true, is best expressed as inscribed in the entrance to the memorial's galleries. Here is their spirit, in the heart of the land they loved, and here we guard the record which they themselves made. Tonight, we'll read the story behind just one of those on the Roll of Honour, which lists the names of more than 103,000 men and women who have given their lives for us in war and on operations for more than a century. But first, we present a lament, Flowers of the Forest. Wreaths or floral tributes will now be laid at the base of the Pool of Reflection.
Today, we remember and pay tribute to able seaman Francis Frederick Spurr. Francis Spur was born in Brisbane on the 8th of October 1924 and known as Frank. He was one of 11 children born to clerk Thomas Spur and his wife Alice. Frank spent much of his childhood in the town of Broken Hill. He received his initial education at the convent school there before relocating to Sydney with his family. There, Frank studied at the Christian Brothers College before entering the workforce. When the Second World War broke out in 1939, he was working as a clerk in the city. Frank Spur enlisted in the Royal Australian Navy on the 24th of August 1942 and was posted at Naval Base HMAS Service to begin his initial training. He remained there until January 1943 when he was posted at HMAS Rushcutter at Rushcutters Bay, Sydney, which provided training in anti-submarine warfare, radar and gunnery. He completed his training at the end of the month and was allocated to his first ship, HMAS Australia, on the 26th of January 1943. Spur spent the first few months of his new posting patrolling the east coast of Australia in support of the Coral Sea Group. In April, his ship was sent to investigate reports of Japanese landings on the Gulf of Carpentaria, which were proven negative. From November 1943 to September 1944, Australia was involved in bombarding enemy-held islands of southwest Pacific from Cape Gloucester to Maratai prior to Allied landings. By mid-1944, the Allies were preparing to return to the Philippines. On the 20th of October, American forces landed on Leyte Island in the Philippines, and Australia was among 550 ships of the invasion force. The Japanese fiercely opposed every phase of the American offensive. On the morning of the 21st of October, Australia weighed anchor to proceed to support the American attack. Soon after, she came under fire from a low-flying Japanese aircraft, which was engaged, causing it to dip into the water. The aircraft recovered, however, and set its sights on Australia. Under continual heavy fire, the aircraft crashed into Australia's foremast and exploded, showering blazing petrol over the bridge and the forward turret. An intense fire broke out, and as the damage control party struggled to extinguish the burning fuel, one of the men on board, 20-year-old able seaman Jared Kobiak, recalled the scene. I saw something flash past, and then there was a blast, and when I came to, the flames were all over us. I was burnt on the arms and back. I jumped down to the deck below and went to the hose on D-deck to help out with the fire. There was only 10 minutes between the first plane attack and the time when the fire was put out. Men with burns who later collapsed and died were among those who turned to and with charred hands tried to handle the bucking fire hoses, which were going at full pressure. The fires were soon extinguished, and though the ship was saved by these valiant efforts, there were nearly 100 casualties, with many men suffering terrible burns. Among them was able seaman Frank Spur, who died of his wounds and shortly after the attack. Able seaman Francis Spur was buried at sea. He was 20 years old. With no grave but the sea, today Spur and his comrades are remembered at the Naval Memorial in Plymouth, England, among more than 23,000 other Allied naval personnel. His name is also listed on the Roll of Honour on my left, amongst those of 40,000 Australians who died while serving in the Second World War. His photograph is displayed today down beside the pool of reflection. This is one of many stories of service and sacrifice told here at the Australian War Memorial. We now remember able seaman Francis Frederick Spurr, who gave his life for us, for our freedoms, and in the hope for a better world.
Please stand for the reading of the Ode and the sounding of the last post.
They have no grave but the cruel sea, no flowers lay at their head. A rusting hulk is their tombstone, a vast on the ocean bed. They shall grow not old as we that are left grow old. Age shall not weary them, nor the years condemn. At the going down of the sun and in the morning we will remember them. Lest we forget.
Lest we forget. We leave you this evening with the words of the memorial's founder, Charles Bean. Many a man lying out there at Pozières or in the low scrub of Gallipoli, with his poor, tired senses barely working through the fever of his brain, has thought in his last moments, well, it's over. But in Australia, they will be proud of this. Ladies and gentlemen, girls and boys, that concludes the last post ceremony. On behalf of the Director and staff, thank you for visiting the Australian War Memorial today and for your continued support of the Memorials Development Project. And we wish you all a very pleasant evening. Thank you.